So you'll see muscular improvement reasonably fast in the sense of getting used to carrying the weight. Jess was right, I need to do more mobility. Yeah, 10.5 clicks. Including a river crossing. Could have been worse, couldn't it? Today we're doing what is known as a TAB in British Army circles, which is an acronym that stands for Tactical Advance to Battle. There's not going to be anything tactical at all about what I'm doing today. It's otherwise known as yomping, or I think rucking is the civvy name. It's certainly the American term for it. But it is basically going for a hike with a heavy day sack on. So I've got like 21.5 kgs roughly in this. So that's about, what's that, about 47 pounds. So it's a very standard weight to use in the military. There's a few reasons why I like doing it. Basically, it's like a complement to running. Like, it's obviously not as fast. Personally, I don't think it's particularly good for you biomechanically to run with one of these on your back. You know, all of that additional stress and strain that you're putting through your knees and that, doing an activity like this, you know, you really don't want to be doing it in a manner which is sort of too high impact. So if you're sort of looking to run with it or anything, you obviously can do, but you know, I'm not sure you're maximizing training value, you know, bearing in mind that this is a training activity, not the thing. But from my point of view, this serves a couple of purposes. I think one of the things it does is that all of the strength and conditioning work that you do in the gym, like, this allows you to translate it into very much a practical setting that still has a bit of an emphasis on sort of utilizing strength and power. So like, particularly when you're going up hills and stuff, you know, this is obviously significantly harder work than just running. One of the nice things I think with tabbing is that it's a nice sort of translation point between the S&C work you do in the gym and actually running. Like, you're putting it into practice by moving. Obviously the big difference is when you're in the gym, you're doing like, you know, 30 or 40 repetitions. Doing something like this, you're taking, you know, tens of thousands of steps over, you know, 10 or 15 kilometers. So you can get that decent endurance translation into the muscles, but it's still working in a manner which is quite strength and power specific. So I think it's a good halfway house. Like, the reality to doing something like this as well is that, particularly if you are doing, you know, something like the route we're doing today, it does get you really strong, you know, particularly for something like running. You know, you reckon that when you're looking at shifting your body weight around, which is pretty much the basis of any sport, if I'm looking at moving about 83 kilos around when I'm running anywhere, and then you put that on, and all of a sudden you're looking at moving 100, you know, sort of 104, 105 kilos around, like, as soon as you take that off again, stuff like going up hills in particular, where you're having to really leverage like quad power and stuff like that, you know, all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier because your body's already made that adaptation. So for me, this is really, really good, like, training for running as well, particularly if you are more concerned, like I am, around getting places efficiently, as opposed to necessarily being like an absolute racing snake. One of the sort of really heavy demands that tabbing does place on you is it does put a lot of stress through joints and tendons. So in particular, it's quite a demanding like modality of phys on like general soft tissue. So it's something which, for me, that's partly a big reason why I do it. Like, looking at really strengthening and conditioning soft tissue, from my point of view, is really important in terms of the longevity piece of what I do. Like the muscular stuff, you can kind of make that work. You know, your muscles are unlikely to like fail catastrophically. Soft tissue can, and for me, if you've tried to achieve those adaptations before these long events, I think it just promotes a sort of general robustness to it, which is a really good thing. It's basically the equivalent of putting on 20 kilograms overnight and then just cracking on with doing the same thing. For someone like myself, I've been marching with weight for like 12-13 years now, so my physiology is like well adapted to it, and it's something which in particular, I was doing a lot of weighted stuff, whether it be tabbing, tire dragging, anything along those lines, prior to going down to Antarctica. So for me, it's kind of reasonably like fresh in the muscle memory, I guess. But I think for anyone potentially looking at introducing it into their training, whether it be purely for a bit of variety, you're not going to cover off the same amount of distance in the same amount of time. But then when you look at the amount of work done over a period of time, you are going to be doing more. So personally, I think it can give you some variety. Obviously, it's not as demanding on the cardiovascular system. But personally, from my point of view, I think the adaptation's worth it. When we were first starting, like the sort of introduction to tabbing at the academy, you start with 12.5 kilograms. So a little bit more than half what I'm carrying today. But I think that's quite a good weight to, to initiate that adaptation. And then probably building up to 20 kilos, really over the space of probably about 6 months. Soft tissue is quite a difficult one to gauge because it does adapt slower than muscle. So you'll see muscular improvement reasonably fast in the sense of getting used to carrying the weight. But what you don't want to be doing is putting, like massive strain on your knee joints when you're going downhill, for instance. I think for me, like doing it in a very gradual manner is always going to be the way. But I remember when I ran the Trans-Gran Canaria ultramarathon, which is hilly. That's 29,000 feet of gain over 78 miles. I did that in my middle of my third term at the academy, so I'd been there for about 9 months at that point, and it was a completely different world because I was so much faster going up the hills than I used to be, and it wasn't anything to do with improved cardio. I was just stronger. There are a variety of really good training outcomes that you can achieve by doing this. I think you just have to be very patient in terms of how you implement it, because it is something that, look, there is a reason why there are loads of blokes in the military who have done 20 years and have bad knees, and it is because of this. As with a lot of these things, just requires a bit of patience and a gradual build, and it is also hard work. I think it's, if you dive into it straight off the bat and kind of think, oh, I'm big and strong and 20 kilograms is no drama, then yeah, carrying 20 kilos in plate form across the gym, not too much of a drama, but doing 10 kilos straight off the bat with it on is going to be pretty unpleasant, and you don't want to be massively putting yourself off by doing something that you're simply not used to. So I think with this, a gradual build-up is definitely the most sensible way to approach it for the best long-term outcome. Still an aspect of being fucking seen off here, but there you go. It's It's the one thing you'll learn working with me, Joe. Only one of my fucking legs works. So, yeah, stuff like this is not very easy. Right. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Oh. There we go. Now we're in a bit of a better wading situation, though, aren't we? Perfect. It's that thing of not being able to put one of your feet down and actually trust it. Yeah. Oh, no. Nah, but mate, it's one of those ones, it's all part of the process, and like, mate, at the end of the day, I don't really give a shit, so. Getting over this log is going to be, oh, actually, absolutely fine, because we've got a fucking log to hold on to. Oh. Jess was right, I need to do more mobility. Oh, Jesus Christ. Right, good. Right, shaky start, but fine. Oh, absolutely not. You weren't correct, I was perfectly mobile enough. Next question. Oh, good. Right, mate, a bit of cryo recovery, isn't it? Well, you know, yeah, but mate, the thing is, Jen, I don't mind being cold, and I don't mind being wet. Cold and wet, abso-fucking-totally not. Like, cannot be dealing with it these days. Although, to be fair, that is mainly because I'm too old and grumpy for it. Like, yeah, 10.5 clicks. Including a river crossing. Could have been worse, couldn't it?